Hi, I'm David Brommer from B&H Photo, and I'm sitting with Richard from Zeiss, and he has some very exciting news and something really cool he dropped off for us today here at B&H. Thanks for joining us, Richard.
You're welcome. Thanks, David.
We've got the Zeiss Otus 55 1.4 lens, and it's one of Zeiss's newest lenses in optics.
Yep.
For those of you that may not be familiar with Zeiss, Zeiss has quite the history in photography.
Yeah, so the company started in 1846. We made our first camera lens in the 1890s.
So it's like 20 years after photography was invented,
Yeah.
You guys were making lenses.
We're in it. And Zeiss's strategy had always been to make lenses as part of camera systems. So we have a long history of making lenses for medium format camera systems, Hasselblad, Rollei, Contax. And that's actually was the basis of this project when we started it 3 years ago, was really designing a lens that would be appreciated by our former medium format customer who has migrated away from medium format to full frame DSLRs.
You know, just to put it into perspective, as myself as a photographer, I sought after the best equipment I could use to make my images with.
Right.
And I just want to, and I know I was coming in with you today, I just want to show off my red Hasselblad,
Beauty.
of course,
That's a
with
beauty.
Zeiss lenses. And man, I mean, Hasselblad was arguably the best camera out there for professionals.
Right.
And I think one of the reasons was that Carl Zeiss Distagon lenses, and I mean the build, the quality of it was fabulous, and what you could achieve with these lenses was it's why Hasselblad's there's a few of these up on the moon.
That's right.
Really good equipment.
Yeah, in fact, the bodies and lenses are still there.
Yeah.
I think there's 13 of them that are up there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick them up. I got a Virgin flight up there next week. I'm gonna see if I can find them. But you know, when you're utilizing these great legendary Zeiss lenses on medium format, of course, much larger than 35mm format, the amateur format,
Right.
medium format, and that's what the pros used. You could benefit with that larger piece of film by using a higher quality optic. And when the birth of digital photography came, I think that we had a lot of sensors that really couldn't keep up with these great lenses. And now it's 2013. We've got some super high-end cameras that are out there, Nikon D800 high megapixel cameras with very small pixels. And you guys have something new to show off.
Yeah, we sure do. Yeah, and kind of picking up on your medium format message, we really saw that market start to change 10 years ago. And you know, for the pros, their camera of choice right now are full frame DSLR cameras, and really not medium format. So from we look at traditional applications for medium format have been portraiture and wedding. Certainly that's gone full frame DSLR and even the style of shooting has changed. It's less formal. It's more photojournalistic in style, which kind of favors a smaller, lighter camera. But even on the studio side, you know, the kind of the market share or the presence that medium format used to have in that space has changed pretty dramatically. So, you know, we look at cameras like the D800, full frame, high resolution cameras as really kind of filling that niche that used to be filled by medium format. We also know that if you don't match the right lens with those cameras, you're really not getting the most out of that sensor. And we're at the point right now where the pixel sizes, when it starts to go, let's say, below 5 microns, which it does in the case of the D800, there's a lot of lenses on the market today, especially legacy lenses, that just are not up to the resolution, especially at the frame edges.
My film was much more forgiving of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we saw a need about 3 years ago, kind of getting into the new lenses here. So we started this project 3 years ago, partly as a way to address the needs of our former medium format customers who are looking for high quality optics with much higher build quality than what we saw in the market today. But also, you know, since the project started, we see this emergence of high resolution DSLR cameras and the need for high quality glass. So our target with this lens is actually the medium format photographer who has switched to full frame, and anyone actually owning a high resolution camera like a D800, where you have to match, you know, a very high resolution lens in order to get the most out of that sensor.
You know, I think that one thing I miss amongst professional photographers is that back in the day, 10 years past, a professional photographer used a camera that Uncle Bert didn't have.
Right.
So, you know, you shot a wedding. The professional photographer that was contracted showed up with a big medium format camera that wasn't a consumer camera.
Right.
And he was the professional, so he used a professional camera. And digital photography has kind of switched that around. You've got, it's a good chance that you as the first shooter for the wedding may have the same camera that Uncle Bert has.
Very true.
But when you match a lens like this, and I said, a couple of things that just off the top of my head here, that a depth of field scale.
Right.
Right, that's right there. It's like I'm looking at an old friend here.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's wonderful. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with depth of field scales, because they've almost disappeared from modern lenses, it allows you to look at the f-stop you're using and the feet that will be in focus. So you can, I say guess to focus, but you can estimate and see where the depth of field is going to fall off. And
exactly. And if I'm shooting anything fast action, or if I'm shooting street, and I want to zone focus, I can certainly do that knowing what the depth of field is for the given aperture I'm shooting at.
The other thing that's striking me on this is the build quality is fabulous. I mean, this is very smooth.
Very smooth.
And the helicoils that are built inside of this are up to those, up to Carl standards.
Exactly, exactly. The lens actually took a IF Design Award in 2013, so it's one of 5 lenses that Zeiss brought out in the last year that were awarded with that kind of design distinction. So if you look at just the exterior of the lens, it has a nice modern shape. The barrel's all metal construction. We do have a rubber grip, mainly for just comfort, but it's also when you're photographing and your eye's always going through the viewfinder, you want to know where the focus barrel is, as opposed to kind of the smooth side of the metal finish. So we do that just so you have a tactile difference between that and the body itself.
Yeah. And a metal lens hood. Nothing has been spared on this lens.
Exactly.
So pretty much what you can expect a user working with this edge-to-edge sharpness will be superior. And
amazing.
It's hard to show it here on the video, but when Richard first came in, he had four pictures from 3 different medium format digital cameras, and then one was the D800 with the Otus 55 1.4 on it, and it was visible. Myself and someone else in the room was able to pick out a first shot on the 4, which is kind of impressive, actually.
It is. When you look at that camera system, you're matching a D800 with our lens at being just under $7,000 list, compared to one of these high-end medium format systems.
Well, the body starts on the low end at 7,000, really at 15, 18,000, right?
Yeah. So we say that the image quality you can get from this lens and camera combination is comparable to what you're seeing from medium format systems of 60 megapixel or more. So quite remarkable. And the reason we were able to give a lens that has such high resolving power is when we started the project 3 years ago, the mandate that we gave both the optical and mechanical engineers was to design the best possible lens without any restrictions at all, no compromises. So normally when the sales and marketing guys sit back and go like, well, we need a new lens, it has to be within this focal length range, but it can't be too big or too heavy or too expensive. But it still has to perform better than the competition because our lenses are manual focus, right? And the photographer is looking, right, I'm going to give up my autofocus zoom for a manual focus prime lens. What am I getting in return? Right? You have to be able to give them better image quality. So in terms of a design goal, that's always number 1, but these other conditions come underneath it as well. With this lens, all those other conditions went away. We told them, we don't care how expensive or how big or how heavy. Just build the best possible lens you can. Now, if I look at this is a standard lens. So it's a 55mm focal length. And Zeiss has done some 55s in the past for the Contorex and the contact systems. So we have a history of doing focal lengths in that range. But if I compare this lens to our planar 1.450 that we do for the ZE and ZF2, for the Canon Nikon mounts, this lens is significantly bigger and heavier. We have 12 lens elements in 10 groups, versus 7 lens elements in 6 groups. It's a much more complex design. We've opted to go with a distagon design, which is a retrofocus wide-angle design that Zeiss typically uses for its wide-angle lenses. And we chose the distagon design in this case because it's a more complex design than the planar design, which is a much more simpler design. And the goal here was to correct both the chromatic aberration in the lens, spherical aberrations, but also field curvature. So we want to make sure that there's because of the natural field curvature we see in some lenses, we want to make sure that the focus point remains consistent from the center out to the edge. With the distagon design, we're actually able to correct for both of those kind of inherent flaws within lenses where we can't do that with a planar design. So that's why it's kind of that large and heavy, and it's as complex as it is. But the result that you get at f1.4 is as good as it is stop down.
Okay. So this is not your resolving is going to be the same at 1.4 and f16.
Exactly. And that's the amazing part about it. Most high-speed lenses today, you'll see some compromises in terms of softness at the edges. You'll see contrast and color saturation come down, resolution drops. With this one, I can shoot at 1.4 and get the same results as if I'm stopped down. Now, our planar 1.450 is an amazing lens, stop 2 or 3 stops down. Wide open, it's designed to be a little on the soft side. This one is not. So if I'm looking to emphasize shallow depth of field without...
But when you say soft, Zeiss soft is different than other softs.
Right.
It's more of a milky,
Yeah.
smooth texture. But this one is just going to retain that contrast and that pop.
Exactly.
Right at 1.4.
Right. So I can shoot street at night, wide open, with lower ISO, right, and then be able to shoot handheld at a higher shutter speed, and still not see any sort of color fringing around specular highlights that I would typically see with another fast lens. So that magenta fringe, that you would see under bright highlight, there's none of that in this case.
And that's one of those that you don't see it when you're looking on a Flickr web page and you magnify it, but when you're in Photoshop in your digital darkroom and you start zooming in, you see those breakdowns on lenses that can't perform to that spec. The I could see this would be fabulous for like a landscape photographer photographing waterfalls.
Absolutely. If I'm a landscape guy doing stitching to do panos,
that's
amazing for that.
The commercial shooters photographing product.
Absolutely. We say some lifestyle shooters if you're on location. Certainly fine art, advertising type of work. Our lenses are well suited if you have the time to focus and compose. All right, if you're shooting something that's fast moving, you have to use the lens with some caution. We don't necessarily target the wedding, sports, photojournalistic side of that business because there is a place for an autofocus zoom when you only have one time to get it right. But if you have the time to sit and focus and compose. Yeah,
but even a photojournalist's wedding, you really got to take something like this and you got to nail your portraits. That's you can't hand in a bunch of pictures of the bride running around and interacting. You have to have a couple of the ones just to mark the occasion. Right. You know how much those dresses cost? the hair, the nails, they deserve a lens like this.
Yeah, for sure. And what's nice, I can shoot that wide open, do a nice portrait, have just great bokeh in the background. So the focus fall off on this is fabulous.
Well, we'll be able to show some example images along with this video. But you know what, I just want to say thank you, Zeiss, and thank you, Richard, for actually being committed to photography and not going by the wayside, keeping a professional aesthetic and ideal into the system. It's exciting. You could go, the cameras can go so far, but then a lens like this will just take it to the next level. And it's great to see that commitment from your company and the products that you guys have been coming out with. I think that if Carl was around today, he'd be pretty damn impressed.
I think he'd be proud.
All right, thank you very much for coming and visiting.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. Thank you, folks.
Whether you're a hobbyist or a professional, B&H has the answers to your questions. Experience a world of technology at our New York City Superstore. Connect with us online or give us a call. Our staff of experts is happy to help.